What the hell is that? I murmured, my eyes fixed on the strange sight before us. Honey, what's wrong? My wife Karen asked from behind me. It's a door, I replied, still bewildered. She laughed. You must have hit our stash a little early. We're in the middle of the woods. Where would A? Oh, wow. Karen stopped mid-sentence, finally seeing it. We stood side by side, staring at an old wooden door embedded in a hill in the middle of nowhere. This is insane, she said, grinning. You never know what you'll find on these trips, right, honey? Should we knock? I shook my head. I'm not sure I want to meet whoever lives in this hill. Oh, come on, Karen nudged me. Where's your sense of adventure? She approached the door and knocked politely. Knock knock, is Peregrine home? I shook my head and smiled. Karen always reminded me why I fell in love with her. She turned back to me, feigning disappointment. I guess no one's home, she said. Then let's go, I suggested. We have plenty of mushrooms. Let's find a spot for our trip. Are you kidding me? God, I married the most boring man in the world. We have to get inside. And what if someone lives there? Someone lives in a hill in the woods? I think whoever built a house under a hill would be open to sharing their stash. You think just because they live here, they're a stoner? That's kind of racist, Karen. Racist to who? The tree people, of course. Who else? Karen laughed and gave me another playful shove. I pretended it hurt, but I liked it when she did that. All right, I conceded. If I didn't disregard common sense, I wouldn't have married you. Good thing, too. Or I'd kick you out to live with Peregrine in the woods. I chuckled and pressed on the door handle. It wasn't locked. As the door opened, a damp, mossy smell wafted out. The room was dark, but the walls seemed to be made of stone, not earth as I had expected. Wait a second, I said, dropping my backpack and rummaging for a flashlight. I finally found it and lit up the walls. What the? The walls were covered in some kind of nonsensical carvings. They reminded me of Egyptian hieroglyphs we studied in school. Is this wingdings? Karen joked. I didn't respond. I felt like someone was watching us. I shone the flashlight on the far wall and realized it wasn't a wall at all. The passage continued and descended as far as the light could reach, illuminating the ceiling some 30 feet away. Karen, I think we should. Wait, what's that? Karen pointed to a dark stain on the floor. I moved the flashlight over it, some sort of black liquid. Motor oil? I joked. But Karen wasn't amused. She knelt down to examine the puddle. This is blood, Danny. And look, there are tracks leading inside. I lifted the flashlight. Sure enough, a trail of blood led deeper into the cave. Probably just an animal. We should go. But Karen was already tying her hair back, the way she did at work. She cupped her hands around her mouth. Hey, is anyone there? I heard the sound echo off the walls, suggesting the space was larger than I initially thought. Help. The response was faint but discernible, coming from deep within the cave. As soon as I heard it, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt a gnawing sensation in my gut. Every instinct told me to get out of there. Karen, this could be a trap. Let's call the park rangers and get out of here. Danny, there's someone hurt in there. She replied sternly, then softened her tone. Sorry, honey, but you married a nurse. I'm going in. I sighed, knowing there was no stopping her once she made up her mind. Gripping the flashlight tighter, we began our descent into the corridor. The bloodstains lessened as we went deeper. Whoever it was had lost a lot of blood near the door. But if they were injured there, why go further into the cave instead of outside where there was a chance of being found? It made no sense. The air grew hotter and more humid as we moved down the increasingly steep corridor. The sharp smell of mold hit my nose. I coughed. How could there be so much dust down here? Farther in, tree roots breaking through the stone walls cracked the surface. What the hell is this place? I whispered to Karen. Maybe some kind of survivalist bunker? she suggested. Then, cupping her hands again, she yelled, "Hey, can you hear us?" The echo carried her voice down the corridor. "Stay calm. We're coming to help. Help." The voice was louder this time. "We must be close." But the unease I felt hearing it only grew stronger. Didn't Karen feel it? We continued down and found the end of the blood trail. A long smear, as if someone had been dragged. Then it suddenly stopped. No more blood. The cave walls were nearly covered in roots. The hot, dusty air was getting harder to breathe. Help. This time the voice came from right ahead. It sounded strange, raspy, and creaky, like a rough imitation of a human voice. The incline was so steep now it was impossible to go further without risking a fall into who knows what. "We need to get down to him," Karen rasped. She was also struggling to breathe the thick, hot air. "Okay, step back." I pulled out the rope we had packed for emergencies and tied it to a thick root. I yanked it hard several times to ensure it was secure, then tied the other end around my waist. I had never wanted so badly to turn back and leave, but I knew nothing would make Karen abandon someone in need. So I began the careful descent, watching my step and sweeping the flashlight over the floor to avoid slipping. In the darkness, a blurry human figure appeared. I aimed the flashlight at it. The blood froze in my veins. "Karen, run." "What?" "Run." My breath caught as the rope jerked at my waist. I wanted to believe Karen was pulling it, but I knew that wasn't the case. She wasn't strong enough. I landed hard as the rope continued to drag me back. "Danny, what the hell?" "Run, damn it." She was already backing away when the walls and roots started to move, slowly reaching towards us. I cut the rope with my pocket knife and bolted, dragging Karen with me. She wouldn't hesitate if she saw what I saw. At the bottom of the cave, a man was suspended above the ground, held by a web of roots piercing through him. Small bulges moved along the roots, passing through his shriveled, twisted body, one root piercing his throat, moving each time the man called for help. The plant was manipulating his vocal cords. We left the flashlight and our gear running in complete darkness, coughing and gasping for breath in the dusty, humid air of the cave. I stumbled over roots that hadn't been there before. My arm jerked as Karen fell, and we both tumbled into the writhing mass of roots that wrapped around our legs and started to pull us back. I slashed at the roots with my pocket knife. They recoiled, and I freed our legs. I pulled Karen up, but the roots were stronger. "Leave me," she screamed. Not a chance. I blindly swung the knife near her legs, hearing the dull thud of cutting wood. I kept cutting until she was free. We ran towards the door, feeling the air grow cooler and fresher, the incline less steep. We were almost there. I could see the light spilling from the door. We crashed into it and fell. I jumped up. "Please just open." I grabbed the handle and pulled, and a rush of fresh air and sunlight burst in. I dragged Karen outside, collapsing in exhaustion. "We made it," I gasped, my chest heaving, coughing the dust from my lungs. Yeah, Karen was red with exertion, her arms and legs covered in scratches. I probably looked no better. "What the hell was that?" I asked, getting to my feet. Karen shook her head. "No idea. Let's just get out of here." I helped her up. We stood, trying to catch our breath and clear our throats. Karen spat something into her palm. "Danny?" She showed it to me. It was a small leaf. Green tendrils crawled across her face, spreading and curling under her skin, and I realized with horror that what we had been breathing wasn't dust. It was spores.